tireless machines. Men with dreams and steely wills leave the shore for months. Work selflessly to harvest hundreds of tons of fish from the deep sea of the Atlantic. This is life, work, and a journey of survival at the forefront of the wind and waves. A fierce dance between humans and the ocean. The ship is more than 100 meters long, dozens of meters wide, carrying the most modern machines. Going out to sea thousands of nautical miles, where fish gather seasonally and according to ocean currents. It is not always easy to find schools of fish. Fishermen must rely on experience, combined with sonar technology and long-range radar to determine the location of schools of herring,
mackerel, sardines, or cod moving. Once the sign of a large school of fish was detected,
the entire ship immediately prepared to get into position. The cable, stretching thousands of meters, was lowered, carrying the magnificent net, a net weighing tens of tons with a mouth wider than a football field. The process of pulling the net began. The engine roared. The net crawled on the seabed like a giant dragon, opening its mouth and dragging everything inside. The speed of the ship was kept stable, closely coordinating with the rhythm of the net to avoid tearing the net or injuring the fish. Every minute that passed was a minute of suspense. Was it really a giant school of fish? As the signal reported, after several hours of continuous pulling, it was time to lift the net. The workers began to feel the weight gradually increasing. The net was heavy. The cable stretched as if about to break. The deck began to get wet as the first waves of fish rose to the surface of the water. The scene was no different from a flood. Hundreds of tons of fish were piled onto the deck at the same time.
Each time the net is cast, it is a rain of fish. The fish struggle, slide on the iron floor,
Flap their wings vigorously, full of wild vitality, the rumbling of machinery.
The shouts of people, the splashing of fish, all blend into a fierce symphony.
The mackerel are as big as an adult's calf, their bodies shimmering with silver. The sardines sparkle like sea pearls, and the cod is heavy.
Bearing the appearance of the kings of the ocean, the crew immediately gets to work sorting and processing.
On board, there are specialized conveyor belts that lead the fish to the cleaning area,
where machines gut, remove the organs, cut off the heads, and quickly cool them. Meanwhile, the smaller fish are poured into brine tanks to keep them fresh. These batches of fish are not only for the domestic market, but also exported all over the world. From Europe to Asia, a single net can bring in 200 to 300 tons of fish.
On lucky days, that number can exceed 400 tons, meaning that one net can feed an entire seafood market for weeks.
But there are also days when the boat has to drag the net for hours and only catches a few tons of fish. The sea is unpredictable and never repeats itself. Behind the impressive numbers is an indescribable amount of hard work.
The sailors work 12 to 18 hours a day or night, rain, wind, cold mist. And even storms are always lurking. There are nights when the boat is rocked so hard that it seems like it will capsize, in the force 9 or 10 winds, and the fishermen have to tie their safety ropes to avoid being swept out to sea. But it is also in this danger that they learn to bond, cooperate, and share. They become family, brothers and sisters bound together by sweat and blood in the middle of the ocean.
The ship also has a deep freeze system, where the fish is frozen immediately after being processed.
To maintain absolute freshness, the fish are taken to the freezer at -40 degrees Celsius. Arranged in layers, pallets, preparing for the return trip to the mainland.
Each port call is a major event. Cranes, refrigerated trucks, and stevedores work through the night
to bring hundreds of tons of fish from the ship to shore, sometimes within just a few hours.
The entire output is transferred to processing plants, canneries, or transferred to export cold storage chains.
Those giant trawlers are not only symbols of modern fishing capacity, but also the clearest reflection of the battle for marine resources
between humans and nature. Each voyage to the sea is a bet with the weather, a bet with luck, and a bet with one's own health and life. However, despite the hardships. light bulbs. There are still thousands of fishermen who stick to the sea day and night because that is their life.
Their passion and their reason for existence. Those ships also carry stories about climate change,
the depletion of fishing grounds, and the responsibility to protect the marine environment.
In recent years, many ships have adopted more environmentally friendly technology, using nets that select fish sizes, avoiding overfishing or catching unwanted species. Some countries require ships to install positioning and tracking devices, report catches and fishing time
in specific sea areas to ensure sustainable exploitation. Every time the dawn breaks,
The ship continues a new fishing cycle. On the deck, covered in frost.
the fishermen wear thick coats, rubber boots, their eyes looking towards the horizon.
Where they put their faith in the next catch. Although each catch is a challenge of strength and spirit.
The pride in feeding the world with food from the sea is always the motivation for them to continue.
In the cockpit, the old captain with white hair and a sunburned face still adjusts the wheel steadily.
His eyes are familiar with the fierceness of the ocean. For him, the sea is not only a place to make a living, but also a close friend. Cruel, but always tolerant of those who know how to respect it.
Each trip to the sea is a time to listen to the breath of the ocean, a time to live fully with the majestic and fierce nature.
And so the ship continued to turn the waves away from the mainland, continuing its journey in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean,
Carrying the children of the sea, who have never retreated before any storm.
Leaving behind the vivid story of the world's most difficult but also proud profession of offshore trawling.
As night fell in the middle of the ocean, the giant ship was like a shining fortress quietly moving on the dark water.
Patience becomes an essential part of life. Many times the net is pulled up with nothing but a few fish.
Seaweed and mud, but no one complains. They cast the net again, hope again, and wait again.
That is the rhythm of the job, the rhythm of the sea, humble, persistent, and never giving up.
The meals on board are simple but warm. Hot bowls of noodles, trays of rice with fried fish.
Pickled vegetables, and sometimes a few slices of frozen meat are a luxury in the middle of the ocean.
They eat quickly, chat for a while, and then rush back to work. Sleep comes quickly.
Perched on a small bunk bed in the cabin, always shaking with the sound of the engine.
Many nights, sleep is interrupted by radar alarms, by fish detection signals, or by big waves that make the ship rock. But no one complained, because everyone understood. Every minute and second that passed at sea was an opportunity.
To have more output, more income, more hope to send back to their families on the mainland. The fish pulled up were not just food. For the fishermen, it was the result, the flesh and blood.
The calluses on their hands and the homesickness in their hearts. Every time the deck was full of fish. They felt like they were given more strength. The laughter, the handshakes and pats on the back. The crude but friendly jokes all created a strong camaraderie that only those who fought together at sea could understand.
There were seasons of abundant fish. In just 1 month, the ship caught thousands of tons of fish. Enough for the parent company to make a bumper crop. The sailors were highly rewarded. And the fishing port became bustling for many weeks. But there were also seasons of deserted seas.
When the fish moved early, the ocean currents changed, or a big storm forced the entire fleet to turn back empty-handed. The sea is unpredictable, and no one can be sure what awaits them beyond the horizon.
However, that adventure is also the strange attraction that makes the children of the sea unable to leave.
After many weeks of drifting, the ship will return to the mainland with a full cargo hold.
The scene of docking at the port is a vivid picture. Dozens of refrigerated trucks lined up.
Cranes operating continuously, workers moving like ants, transporting each pallet of fish to the warehouse.
Each time the fish is dumped, it is a shower of ice. The frozen fish blocks fall clattering on the cement floor.
The cold air rises like white smoke. Everything is urgent, precise, and there is no room for error.
Because just a few hours late will reduce the quality of the fish, affecting the selling price and the reputation of the whole trip.
After delivering all the goods, the ship is maintained, refueled, the refrigeration system checked. The hold cleaned, and new nets prepared. Sailors take the opportunity to visit their families. See their wives and children, have a hot meal, and sleep peacefully without the sound of the ship's engine.
But just a few days later, they pack their backpacks, return to the port, board the ship, and prepare for another sea voyage.
Because that is the never-ending cycle of the seafaring profession, a cycle that is closely linked to food.
Clothing, faith, and life on each trawler is a miniature society. There are young people, old people,
people who are going to sea for the first time, and people who have been at sea for 30 years.
They come from different regions, speak different accents, but when they board the ship, they are one.
With the same goals, the same ideals, and the same desire to conquer the ocean.
At night, sitting on the deck drinking hot tea, they tell stories of life, stories of the sea.
Stories of near-death experiences in storms, when the storm comes, when there are no more fish.
When the nets are torn, only solidarity can help them overcome. And it is from that harsh place that ordinary people become extraordinary.
Strong, brave, and never give up. The ship cuts through the waves again, moving further away from the mainland. Entering the deep sea where the fish are gathering. The wind and waves were still there, but they did not deter anyone. Arms were raised again, the machines roared again, the nets were lowered again, and the journey to harvest hundreds of tons of fish continued. As it had for generations, in the middle of the mighty Atlantic. The following days at sea were much the same.
Only very small changes in light, wind direction, wave height, and sky color.
But to the sailors, each of these details had important meanings. A slight change in the direction of the current
could signal a school of fish on the move. An unusual wave could signal bad weather.
Decades of experience at the sea had given the captains and sailors the same keen senses as seabirds. They sensed changes from the most subtle things. When the school of fish appeared, the entire ship seemed to wake up. Without any alarm, everyone automatically ran to their positions, one to adjust the speed of the ship.
One to check the net cables, one to prepare the freezer compartment, and even one to stand guard on the radar.
A huge coordination system operated smoothly in the midst of the frenzied sea. They only had a few minutes
to drop the net precisely at the center of the school of fish. If they were a little slower, the fish would scatter.
Drift out of range, and all their efforts would be wasted. The net was dropped in a state of complete concentration.
The diameter of the mouth of the net could be up to 100 meters, hundreds of meters long.
And was kept in balance by buoys and weights. As the net began to move in the direction of the ship,
the operator had to calculate so that the mouth of the net always opened at the right angle.
Without twisting or folding. Just a small error in the angle or speed could cause the entire catch to fail.
Pulling up the net was the most stressful stage. The steel cables screeched.
The tractors worked at full capacity, and the sailors strained their eyes to watch each meter of rope being pulled back.
When the first rays of light hit the water, the net began to float up, with thousands of fish gathered at the end of the net.
That was when the whole ship cheered. The catch was successful. There were catches so large that the net weighed hundreds of tons.
It was impossible to pull them all up at once. The ship had to use a crane to lift each part of the fish.
Pour them into temporary tanks, and then process them. The streams of fish rushed onto the deck, slippery and cold,
making the entire deck always look like a surface of ice. Everyone had to wear special non-slip shoes,
thick gloves and safety helmets to avoid accidents. Each fish was handled carefully.
If it was cod or large mackerel, they were sorted on the spot with specialized machines to debone.
Cut off the head and clean the intestines. Smaller fish were packed into hold bags or transferred to the freezer.
The ship could store up to thousands of tons of fish at minus 50 degrees Celsius in deep freezers. It is this modern preservation technology that allows the ship to stay at sea for weeks while the quality of the fish remains the same
as when it was just caught. When the wind is strong, the ship must turn to avoid the storm.
Waves higher than 10 meters can hit the side of the ship as if they want to knock everything down.
Fishermen must close the hatch, tie up all equipment, and stop all outdoor activities.
Some nights, they have to wear protective gear and lie down near the escape hatch for fear that the ship will be tilted by the waves.
In some extreme cases, the ship is even forced to dump some of the fish it has caught to reduce the load and save their lives.
However, even after such nights, when dawn breaks and the waves calm down, the ship continues its journey.
It never promises anything easy. Only those who are resilient and brave enough can make a living with this profession.
As the ship approaches the port, it notifies the stevedores in advance to prepare the refrigerated trucks.
Warehouses, quality control, and transport teams are all in place. Each bale of frozen fish is brought ashore for shipment all over the world. The fish on display in supermarkets in Japan, Germany, the US, or Korea.
Clean, attractive, with full labels. Sometimes, they have to wear protective gear and lie down near the escape hatch
for fear that the ship will be tilted by the waves. In some extreme cases, the ship is even forced to dump some of the fish
it has caught to reduce the load and save their lives. However, even after such nights,
When dawn breaks and the waves calm down, the ship continues its journey. No one complains.
no one gives up. They all understand that the sea is like that. It never promises anything easy.
Only those who are resilient and brave enough can make a living with this profession. As the ship approaches the port, it notifies the stevedores in advance to prepare the refrigerated trucks, warehouses, quality control, and transport teams. Only those who are resilient and brave enough can make a living with this profession. As the ship approaches the port,
There, they are canned, sliced, filleted, or processed into frozen foods for shipment all over the world.
The fish on display in supermarkets in Japan, Germany, the US, or Korea. Clean, attractive, with full labels.
sometimes they have to wear protective gear and lie down near the escape hatch for fear that the ship will be tilted by the waves.